Welcome to Eye of the Storm. My name is Marlon. We're filming on location at Bracebridge Hall, which is in Earlville, Maryland, with Recovery Centers of America. We have a very special show. I'm going to interview our CEO for Bracebridge Hall. Her name is Domenica Personti, and she's a very dynamic person with all kinds of specialty tracks that she's created here. And there's so much more to come for this site. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. I have one of my first supervisors with us who kind of gave me my wings by allowing me to learn, and I greatly appreciate that, because you know how it is when you get the wrong supervisor who micromanages you and you never get anything done. So, you know, I really appreciate you taking me on, because I knew nothing, just so you know.
You know enough.
I did not know what a PHP was. I did not know the industry. I knew people. And you allowed me to go out and meet some people, and it was really a cool experience. And it kind of gave me my wings in the industry. And I don't know whether you realize it or not, it made me a soldier. So I was in a totally different industry in New York. Yeah. And when I came here, I realized I really wasn't working anymore. Like I was on a mission. Yep. And it kind of just, it came out so free that I always knew that I wanted to help people with the homeless in New York. But when I started working with you and you said, we're going to go out and you're going to meet people and you're going to find resources for our patients because they need us. And I remember the things that you said, and it gave me like this, like drive. Energy, like, who can I meet? I'm from New York. I know nobody here, right? Yeah. So am I going to be able to walk into probation here, into the judges' chambers? Are they going to want to talk to me? And what I realized is they all want to talk to us. For sure. Because they need us just like we need them. Absolutely. You know, and I've gotten some really cool friends out of it. I mean, I play golf with the mayor now, and I'm from New York. Who knows the mayor? Right. You know what I mean? Right. So, I immediately called home and I said, I just played a round of golf with the mayor, you know, and I thought it was the coolest thing because city officials in these areas are so in touch with the community. For sure. You know, it's not like you're meeting this politician who, if you don't say the right things, is not going to answer your questions, may not take your meeting. I call this guy up on a Saturday and make a golf date, and he goes. And that was because of what you did for me, and I appreciate that. Absolutely. And, you know, I wanted to bring the show here because people need to hear from you. Because you symbolize recovery. Everything about you symbolizes hope. Nothing is impossible, and recovery can happen if you try, right? Because I remember we went on a few interviews or a few meetings with some judges, and you were saying to me, well, I'm their success story. Like, it's true. And I'm thinking, you know all of them? And you're like, well, I know them very well. Very closely. Yeah, because I was in front of them many times. And I also was in front of a couple of judges for bad behavior. And they took care of me too after a while because they realized that's not who we are. For sure. That's just the things that we do, right? So I want you to talk a little bit about your recovery, not the recovery in that end, but how you got to be a CEO. Like, did you always plan on, this is what I'm going to do? Yeah. Tell me.
So, you know, no.
Yeah.
So being a CEO was never part of my plan or intent.
It was Brian's plan.
Definitely so. And I'm grateful. You know, I'm grateful that I landed here. But, you know, in all actuality, you know, when I got into the field, you know, I had gotten in trouble, was in the justice system at an early age, went into treatment the first time when I was 14, ran, you know, here, there, and everywhere, right? Okay. And then, you know, came across the judge who basically said, you know, you deserve better. You should do better. You know, you don't need to live in this constant chaos. I had a probation officer, and I tell people all the time, you know, she was a lifesaver, right? Because a lot of times you don't hear people express gratitude to the criminal justice system, right, for their new way of life.
And were you already in the field or trying to get into school? Or?
So I mean, you know, at the time when I met her, I was not in the field. I was in a relationship that was extremely toxic, very physical. You know, came out of that a domestic violence survivor, absolutely. You know, and she basically took my hand and said, you need to go see someone for domestic violence counseling. You need to see someone to learn how to, you know, relive your life on this side. It's really hard when you're used to living a life that involves criminal behavior to kind of flip that over with no resources, right?
And let me ask you a question. So you're in this relationship that you know is toxic, you know is physically violent. Did you even realize you were in it, or it just became?
I loved it.
You
You
loved
know,
it.
it was all I knew. You know, it was extremely toxic in that, you know, I never thought I could live without him. You know, eventually we had kids together, and so then, you know, how do I leave with no skill set, no education, no desire really to live any other way?
Right.
You know, so she kind of took my hand and forcefully said, you know, either you get out of this relationship or we involve DFS. And I remember at the time thinking, involve DFS, you know, my kids will probably be better off with my mom and I'll get to live my life the way I want to, the way I thought I wanted to.
Sure.
You know, and it took a lot of counseling and therapy and really what it really took and what I try and exude in my life on a daily basis is it took people who showed up, who had no ulterior motive other than to help me get well.
Right.
So had it not been for the grace of others, I would not be here today, right? And so I think it's important because I don't know that we all realize our power and worth in what we do and can offer to other people. You know, this probation officer I had, she was probably 4'3". She was a tiny little thing and she was really mean. And I fought her every step of the way. But she kept showing up and she kept saying, you know, you're worth it. And, you know, you have this gift that you need to give others. And I'm like, what? I don't even know what you're talking about. You know, she helped me get a job. It was my first job in the field. I worked in the prison and it was like as a junior counselor. That's what it was called at the time. And, you know, I had a supervisor there who was like, you should go to school. And I was like I barely made it out of high school.
Yeah.
I actually graduated a year early out of high school because they couldn't wait to get me out of school. Like I was hot mess express in school, right? Wreaked havoc. I was a violent human. You know, I fought a lot. I was just like a ticking time bomb, you know? And so when someone told me that they thought I could actually go to college, and I was just like, I don't even know how to take the first step. Her name was Nancy Van Horn, and she took my hand and she gave me a brochure for Springfield College and was like, I'll take you, I'll introduce you. Went to college and fought my way through that. And when I say fought my way through it, like every step of the way I was resistant, right? So when people would talk about individuals in addiction, I would like take offense. I would like argue, and so then they wanted me to go to law school. They were like, you would make a great lawyer. You should go to law school. My grandmother said that since I was about 8 years old, you know? And so I started to really open up to like what the possibilities were. And school was a lifesaver for me. College was a lifesaver for me. And again, I had all these people that were around me that kept telling me that I had this gift and that I could like give back and change lives. And like, that was crazy to me. Like I was a convicted felon at the time. You know, I had, you know, 28 felony charges. I had over 50 arrests, 33 pages of sentence order, you know? And so, they're like, you can do. And I'm like, all I know is dysfunction.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and honestly, in mental illness, so much of it for me was depression, anxiety, you know, anger. You know, I was angry at the whole world. Like,
well, when you feel that this is your whole life and, you know, you feel like everybody else is strange.
For sure.
Because they're not acting the way you are, right? Sure.
And I was okay with that lifestyle. I was okay with base level, getting by however I needed to. And then, you know, I've had multiple epiphanies. But you know, you get to a point, I think, where the pain becomes so great that you sit back and go, this can't be it.
Right.
Like, this cannot be my life. Like, this can't be all there is to it. And I think I got to a place of surrender. So I had gotten my bachelor's degree. I got a job.
Must have been some moment for you.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I minimized all of it.
Did you?
Like, oh, this is cool. Like,
but I bet you the people around you.
What am I going to do with this?
People around you didn't minimize it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So they were used to going to court.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. My mom. My mom and I have not always had the greatest relationship. And I put her through a lot. Like I said, at 14 years old, my mom was, having to take calls from the school because I got into fights and, just messy, right?
Although that happened, that day at the open house, she was the most proud.
Oh, absolutely.
So I remember looking at her face and she's just watching you work the room and just in awe. Like, yeah. Sometimes you don't see it, like everybody else sees.
For sure.
I did see that.
She's just glad she didn't have to raise my kids also. You know what I mean?
That could be.
Yeah. So
or that she didn't have to bury you.
It's a true story. Yeah. True story. Because that was the direction we were headed. That or see me in jail for, lengthy periods of time. So, I got to a point where I remember looking at every aspect of my life and going, this just can't be the rest of my life, right? I'm living with someone who is an active heroin addiction. I am searching for him at 3:00 in the morning when I can't find him, thinking he's dead. I'm getting phone calls that he's overdosed here and I'm his emergency contact. The kids were small at the time and they were going through all of that. And so, I accepted her gift, right? Her gift was, I can offer you a better way. So I accepted that, went to therapy, re-engaged in school, all that. And when I graduated, I got a job working in a psych hospital.
Okay. What were you doing?
I was a tech. I went in as a tech.
Okay.
And within about 18 months, I bumped up to lead, running things, developing programs. And my, you ask, how I got here, my career took off from there.
Okay.
I worked with adolescents for a while at a place called Crossroads, and I always say that the kids that I worked with that were in addiction and leading, this life that was crime involved, like they taught me so many things, right? And I'll never forget the woman, she was a mentor to me. Her name was Alberta, and she said to me, show up for them the way you needed somebody to show up for you.
Right.
And like everything shifted. My mindset shifted. The way I practice shifted, and at the end of the day, I just became my authentic self. I stopped trying to be this image of what the professional world wanted me to be.
Right.
And I just showed up.
And you want to know something? We appreciate that in you. So, because we laugh about that a lot, that you are not the conventional CEO. You're not the person who, nobody knows what answer you're going to give. Do you know that?
Yeah.
So we can talk to you and we can recommend things, or I'll just have a candid conversation and you'll have an idea of what this is going to be, and the answer is just well no.
Yeah.
This is going to be this way, and then I'd say why, and you would say because I've thought it through, and this is why this has to happen this way, and we appreciate that you're not going to give us the answer that we think it's going to be. It's going to be the right answer.
Yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, it's going to be the answer that benefits the patient.
Of course.
Right. And so if everything I do comes from this place of service, because that's all I believe, if I'm never successful at anything else, but I am successful at this, and by successful, I mean meaningful connection with people. So I don't gauge success the way a lot of other CEOs or people gauge success, right? My gauge in success is, are people getting well? Do they feel safe? When they walk through these doors, do they feel connection, compassion, kinship? Do they feel love?
Absolutely.
Do they know that we will fight and advocate for them to get them well by any means necessary, no matter what that is, right? Do they know that? Because for me, people would show up for me and they would say, hey, I got your back. Oh, wait, you did that. You crossed the line.
Right.
That act that you just did, or that crime, that was too much. You went from misdemeanor to felony. You're fired.
Right,
that, right? Or look, I'll love you as long as you do the right things, right? Or you can have your kids as long as you do ABC.
Right.
Like, that's conditional, and that's not how people get well, right? And so I was in front of Wilmington City Council last year, and we had this really meaningful conversation around Narcan, and anybody who knows me at all knows that Narcan's always been my baby. I worked really hard to bring it to Delaware a couple years ago and spent some time out in San Francisco, and really learned about it, you know, the right way with the Dope Project. Came back here and worked really hard with attack addiction to bring it to Delaware. And I'll never forget this city councilman. He said, yeah, but how many times are we going to Narcan somebody? However many times it takes.
That's correct. However many times it takes.
However many times it takes.
We're going to take a small break, but we're talking to Domenica Personti. She's our CEO at Bracebridge Hall. And, you know, we're talking about things that happens in a lot of people's lives. A person went from dysfunctional relationship, uneducated, without hope, found someone to give you a hand and say, hey, you can do it.
Sure.
Just like what we say, you can do it as long as you try.
Yep.
And this is where we are today.
Take one step forward, we'll take 10.
So we all believe that if you take a step forward, it's all possible for you. We're going to talk about more things going on at Bracebridge Hall when we come back. Welcome back to Eye of the Storm. My name is Marlon. We're sitting with Domenica Personti, the CEO for Bracebridge Hall. Domenica, you got tons of stuff going on here. Your census is climbing through the roof. You got athletic programs and all kinds of things happening. Yep. Tell us what you're doing, because I love coming here.
Yeah, so we have this philosophy here at Bracebridge that is whatever it takes to get the patient well. So what would we need if it was me? What would I need if it were me? What would help me get well? So that's a combination of things that are anecdotal. It's research-based. It is, what's the most innovative thing I heard this week? Can we try that at Bracebridge? You know, mainly evidence-based programs. So, you know, we've implemented some new things recently that we're really excited about. So the first one is our Pregnant and Parenting Women program.
How does that work?
So this one's near and dear to my heart, because when I first started to engage in recovery and wellness, I actually was in court and found out that I was 9 weeks pregnant.
Okay.
And so at the time, there were not a lot of resources. Mm-hmm. I was 18 years old. I had no idea what it was like to be a parent. I didn't even know if I was going to be successful at it. Right. And I ended up at a program called Byard House, which was for women who were pregnant, who needed additional supports, resources, who were homeless, things like that. One of the best experiences of my life, definitely planted some seeds for me, you know, to help me along my journey, right? So in my mind, I look at it like, if I am serving a person who is pregnant, scared, trying to navigate recovery, what's going to help them be successful? And by successful, in my mind, successful parent, successful pregnant woman, right? How do I keep myself healthy?
Sure.
Especially when I'm new in recovery and trying to, maintain sobriety. I mean, being pregnant by itself or being in an addiction by itself is enough. Combine the two, you have a whirlwind of emotion,
sure.
fear, and all those things. So we have a curriculum that we use for the women. We run groups. We are in the process of implementing things like nutrition classes so they can learn how to make healthy snacks for themselves, healthy foods for themselves, healthy snacks for their kids. A lot of stress reduction, a lot of, what do they need to do to keep themselves healthy through their pregnancy, because women in general don't know how to do that, let alone a woman who's just relearning how to do all these things sober, right?
Okay.
So we're partnering with Union Hospital in their OBGYN practice. We're going to have a staff person that's actually working there on site 20 hours a week, who will kind of bridge the gap between us and them.
So how would they identify a potential patient or a patient that needs substance abuse treatment?
Yep. So they're going to use a tool. It's called SBIRT. It's a brief assessment tool, and it basically identifies high-risk women.
Okay.
And so once they do that, we'll assess them to determine what level of care they need to be in. And if it's inpatient and residential, great, we'll bring them here. Mm-hmm. If it's not, we'll find a resource for them and follow them through that way also. So we're really excited about it. We're actually going to utilize the babies that cry and do things like that for the women so they can actually learn what it's like to have a baby. They'll be here in this building so that the crying babies are not disturbing others.
So they're going to be
they'll be over here in a cohort.
Okay.
Yep. And so, it's really working through all of that with them to try and help them understand what it's going to be like to parent in recovery, because that's very different than just parenting, right?
So many things go into this type of a track. What are you training towards? Do you have to separate everybody? Is the crying going to be an issue? What questions are they going to have, when they leave here?
Yeah.
Because, they become part of a family in here.
Yeah.
And you feel that you're okay and everything's going to be okay. And I say this everywhere I go, that everybody can do well in this bubble.
For sure.
But who are you when no one's looking?
Absolutely. And the hard work begins the minute they walk out these doors.
Absolutely.
We create a safe space here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tell them, so I meet with the patients once a week at minimum.
Okay.
I meet with patients individually I have an open door policy for patients and staff. So, I run group, to keep myself close to them, right? So that I can hear what they want to see more of, what's working for them, what's not, all those things. So, I tell them every time I meet with them, when they talk about how hard it is to be here, it's hard to walk through these doors voluntarily. Mm-hmm. It's really hard. And a lot of people would never walk into a place like this voluntarily. So it takes courage to do that. And I remind them of that, right? And so in addition to that, we talk to them about the work that they do here is just the kicking off point, right? It's just the starting point.
Sure.
You are just scratching the surface.
What does it look like for them
30 to 45
as they
days.
leave? Like, what's their resources leaving the building?
And that's the thing, we set them up as best as we can to continue what we start here, because that's how people stay well, right? The continuum is the strongest part of this. Is that, we're helping them find a sponsor. We're helping them with resources. We're helping them connect to the community. We're helping them spiritually. We do yoga, meditation, fitness, nature hikes.
And
all of that happens
we're helping
here.
them get their families back in their life.
For sure.
So they can have support.
And that family looks very different for different people, right?
Sure.
We talk about family, and it's not always those that you are blood related to.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, we have volunteers that come down here. We have a very special couple that interacts whenever we ask them to, who lost a child to an overdose. And they offered that up to us. If anyone needs a family, we're here. They live 15 minutes away.
It's incredible.
And we've called on them a few times. And they've actually come here and had dinner with an individual on Sunday who doesn't have a connection to their family at the moment. That's what this is about.
Well, like we talked about earlier, they've become soldiers, right?
For sure.
For others. They can't bring their child back, but they can help with others.
And when you reference that term, right? Talk about that, right?
Yeah.
PTSD.
Absolutely.
All the things like that front facing, I'm good, I'm fine, I got this. It is the loneliest place to be when you operate from that space. Absolutely. Right? Like when you are independent because your trauma has shaped that for you. Yeah. I mean, that's not real, right? It's not that you're really okay. It's not that you're fine. It's not that you're so strong you can manage it. It's that your trauma has set you up for that. And it's a farce, right? And so that's kind of what we try and dismantle when people are in here, so that we can show them they can be vulnerable. That's how you get well, right?
Sure.
You can learn to accept love and compassion and connection and kinship, because the people on the margins are the ones who suffer the most.
Yeah.
And our people are people on the margins. Even when they are in a middle class bracket, or when they're lawyers and CEOs and doctors, the stigma associated with addiction puts them on the margins.
I agree.
It's a disease of secrecy, right? And so we have to blow all that out of the water, right? And we have to talk about it. I mean, you know, and when you talk about me and my story, it's been hard for me to have some of those conversations as a CEO, right? That title means nothing to me. So for CEO, for me, I call it Chief Empowerment. Right? It's Chief Empowerment Officer.
That's awesome.
Right? That's what I
haven't
call
heard
it.
that.
Yeah, and so for me, it's Chief Empowerment for the patients. More so than that, it's Chief Empowerment to the staff.
It's so funny that you say that, because Brian, our owner, has asked me to write a ton of job descriptions, right? And every time I get PTSD when I get that request, because I want to make sure I add something every time he asks me, because I appreciate Brian, because every time I talk to him, I get better as a person.
For sure.
Right? So, you know, you're writing these things, and the only thing that is the same is my title of how I bring myself to the job, how I bring myself to the patients. It's educate, encourage, and empower.
Yeah, and it's and the same with the staff. And you know, for me here, I meet every single person we hire.
Yeah, and
no one gets in these doors, because at the end of the day, you have to show up for our people.
That's right.
And you have to show up with genuine authenticity. You have to show up ready to work.
Because they know.
Absolutely, they know.
And I think that most of the patients that come through our doors are smarter than we are.
Absolutely.
You know, and if you're going to give them a line of BS,
they're going to know.
They're going to know, and they're not going to trust you.
We call that game recognized game.
Game recognizing game.
That's what we call it. And they tell me when I meet with the patients, they'll say, "Hey, you know, the new one that you hired, the new RSS that you hired, man, they're awesome." Or they'll say, "Hey, Domenica, that RSS, you know, maybe you can work on ABC." You know, and like I said, I have great relationships with them, right? So they have no problem coming to my door and saying, "Hey, Domenica, you know, here's this." But at the end of the day, if your number one goal isn't to support and to advocate, advocate,
Absolutely.
I can't stress it enough, right? For the patients, then this may not be the best fit for you, because I have extremely high expectations for everyone in this building. And
as you should.
Yeah.
Right?
You have precious lives that you're responsible
for. That's right.
for.
People are coming in here and they're saying, "Hey, I don't know how to do this."
In their most destitute time.
You know, I remember starting at the Lighthouse as the patient advocate, and I wanted to do everything for them, because I realized that if we don't step up for them, they're going to leave the same way they came in, right? And they would wait for me at the front door, and I used to come in 7:30 in the morning. "I need this, I need that. Can you help me with this?" And they depended on me, because they knew I was going to come
for sure,
right?
And it's important.
And I think by you meeting everybody and having that expectation, you're only looking out for the people that are looking for help, right?
They're me. They're me. I mean, I am them, right? There's no division. It's just us. There's no us and them, just us, right? We are all one and the same.
Absolutely.
And if they don't know that and feel that, then how do they open up and give us all of them in order to heal all that stuff?
Absolutely.
Right? So I
agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's just us.
This is some great stuff. We're sitting with Domenica Personti. She's the CEO of Bracebridge Hall. And we have other tracks that we want to talk about. There's an athletic track that's coming up where I take advantage of that golf simulator, and I can't wait for other things to come up, because I feel that activities and nature walks and getting involved in things to get out of your head is helpful for recovery. So we're going to talk about all those things when we come back. Sitting with Domenica Personti. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Eye of the Storm. I'm sitting with Domenica Personti, the CEO for Bracebridge Hall. We're talking about all the cool stuff that you guys got going on here, and I'll keep saying it. I love coming here. I love the drive.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's the nicest drive, because the scenery is beautiful and you get a chance to actually breathe
Yeah.
and have some nice thoughts
down here on the farm.
Yeah, before you actually start walking into the chaos,
For sure.
And then, as you drive up that long road, I see like all the new things that you guys are doing here, and all this stuff is just more things for our patients to want to stay put so they can get well.
For sure.
Tell me, what's going on?
So the other really exciting track that we are starting is our professional and collegiate athlete track. So we are catering to collegiate and professional athletes. So individuals who are struggling with addiction, as I'm sure everybody's aware, right, there's high instances of pain management, injury that leads to opiate use, and even alcohol use in that population. So we've created a track for them that addresses, a lot of the needs that are specific to an athlete, right, and to that population. We have a wellness coordinator, a personal trainer. His name's Paul Norris, and Paul has a long history of he played in amateur league and
baseball. He told me,
baseball. He's a bodybuilder, professional bodybuilder, all of that. So, he works with the patients and creates individual based treatment plans for their athletic needs, and then the therapists all work on what they need from an emotional, physiological standpoint. So it's a great marriage of the two, because it's a barrier for individuals to come to treatment if they're afraid they're not going to be able to train. Absolutely. And they're going to lose, some of the momentum that they gain and things like that. So, we developed that track with them in mind. So we're really excited about that. We've been interacting with some higher level professional athletes that we're hoping, we're going to get down here to, see the program and work with us to create something that's really meaningful for that population, because they need it and they need something tailored to them.
So we're partnering up with consultants in the industry.
So
to show us how to go.
Yeah, we've had lots of conversations with some interesting, bigger named individuals. So we're excited about what's to come with that.
So what kind of activities can they do here? I mean, for these professional athletes or college athletes?
We have grappling mats for the wrestlers, and we have batting cages. We have 560 plus acres of open, vast land to kind of do whatever we need. So Paul has set up, some areas to do sprinting and things like that. We have a state-of-the-art fitness center down there, weights, treadmills, ellipticals, all of that. We have a golf simulator.
My favorite.
Yeah, so we have, he's got everything set up to pretty much any athlete standard that we need. So we're excited.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
And, for everybody who's listening, I know that some people are probably saying, well, they have a batting cage and they have a golf simulator and there is a putting green outside. And is this really treatment? Is this a vacation? Is this treatment? And I'm going to let everybody know that when you enter treatment, there are clinical groups and there are therapists that are diving into the things that you need, but we don't want to stop your life either.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that you can do the normal things that you're used to doing every day, or the things that you've never done before.
That will then aid in your recovery, right?
Sure.
So we offer 36 hours of therapeutic service a week, and that's only Monday to Friday.
Okay.
So we offer another 16 on the weekends. So that is yoga, meditation, psychoeducation groups. There are individual sessions, group sessions. There are sessions with recovery educators, because everything we do here is NA and AA infused, right? The 12-step program. That is spiritual. We take patients to a church called The Journey every Saturday, and then we stream in The Journey every Sunday. So, there are all these different levels of what they get from a therapeutic standpoint. Everything else is ancillary. We believe yoga, meditation, acupuncture, and even we do crystal energy therapy here too. So Reiki, they're all art therapy, music therapy. All those things contribute to someone getting well.
Absolutely.
Everyone can't express themselves verbally when they're trying to heal.
Also, not everybody can sit still in one place
for
30 days.
For sure.
This is a question that our owners asked us so many times. How many people have been away from their house for 30 days? Not on vacation.
Right.
Just away from their house for 30 days. And there's not too many people
who
have spent that much time, it's very hard to stay. You have the lowest elopement rate in the company. And I know part of it is your location, but I think most of it is the engagement that you give these patients. I think that people feel engaged here. They feel supported here. There are so many things to do where you're not going to be bored here.
Yeah. They also have to go through about 12 people to actually get out the door. Well, right? So for us, when someone says they're going to leave treatment early and they throw their hands up, we have an all hands on deck approach. So a notification goes out and everyone available is, because at the end of the day, it's all fear-based. What's it going to be like to be sober? Am I going to be able to repair the damage? What if so-and-so leaves me while I'm here? What if my kids don't want to talk to me? The flip to that is, what if I'm so amazing and it's the best thing that ever happened to me? We're fearful of that.
Sure.
Do we deserve that, right? We question all those things. And so it's all fear-based. If we can take the fear out of it and we can look at it at base level and just say, you're scared. And we get it. And it's okay. It's okay. Let's talk about it. Let's sit in it for a minute. Let's get you past that, because half of the time they stay. Anecdotally, I'll tell you, half the time they stay. It's probably a little higher than that, right? And then 3 weeks later they go, man, thank you so much.
Sure.
Thanks for not letting me walk out the door. That would have been the easy thing to do.
Yes.
Right? Because it's hard to stay in places. You know, when you talk about that 30 days away from your family, it's 30 days away. It's also 7 without any communication with anyone on the outside.
Right.
Right? And then you're sober and you're left to yourself. And everywhere you go, there you are. And so, you know, you're sitting there saying, I did this, I did that, I wrecked this, I wreaked havoc, I blah, blah, blah. I might have lost my job. I might have lost my spouse. All those things. I might have got an arrest.
Right.
Who wants to sit in that, right? Like, it's scary stuff. And so if you don't respond to that, again, with compassion, connection, and kinship, if there's not someone there going, I've been there, I get it. Or, hey, I'm educated in that. Let me help you navigate through it.
Or you just show your heart to that person and say, I'm here for you. I'm
all
here
those
for you
things.
No matter what you need. And, you know, we're talking about how hard it is to redirect someone when they're not, or they feel that they're not worth this.
For sure.
Right? And I hear that all the time. I'm not worth it. I'm only going to relapse anyway. Why are you wasting time? Give the bed to someone who deserves it, right?
And it's never a waste of time.
It's never. Like, we don't think that way. We rally around you and love you until you can learn to love yourself,
For
right?
sure.
And people say, it's a cliche. It's really not.
No.
We understand how you are when you come in. We understand that most of the time you're going to run, or you want to run. It's part of who you've become.
For sure.
Right?
It's what's easy. It's what we know.
And you think you're a bad person. You think this and that. But, you know, we're not treating bad people.
No. We're treating bad behaviors.
We're helping good people get well, right?
Yep.
You know, and CEO of Lighthouse always says this, that we want to celebrate your recovery.
For sure.
We want you to come in so we can say, hey, welcome to a better life.
And that's why we do graduations, right? And certificates and, you know, congratulations, you stayed. Congratulations, you fought for yourself.
Yeah, you got through your first week. Hey, here's this bracelet and this bracelet. It may just be a bracelet to you, but it's a symbol of an accomplishment.
Yeah, and your perseverance, right? And your achievement, for sure.
You know, we surround people, and some of the patients say, you know, why are you trying to keep me here? You know, you're holding me hostage.
Yeah.
I've done this with Dawn plenty of times where people say, you can't hold me hostage.
Yeah.
You can't keep me here. We only want to keep you here because we know if you make the decision, might not be a good
For
one.
sure.
You know, until you're able to make a decision.
Right, because left to our own devices, we don't always make the best decisions.
Of course.
We don't play the tapes all the way out.
Absolutely.
We play the tapes out and we come up with this, you know, ending that's like, you know, the ending in all the Disney movies, right? That's not the ending for us when we self-sabotage. That's not what happens.
I agree. So we also have other tracks available.
Yep. So we are also using medication-assisted treatment, methadone and Subutex.
Let me stop you for a minute. So when you medicate somebody in-house, right, does that cause a wave to people that are off medication?
Nope. So here's the thing, right? If someone's dosed appropriately, no one else will ever know. So if they're dosed appropriately and responsibly, no one else should ever know that they're medicated.
This is what the talk is of every patient that will come in. Well, I don't agree with this. I don't agree with that. But the truth is that we think of these things.
And honestly, the only time anyone else in here would know that someone was on any kind of MAT is if that person tells them.
Right.
Because we dose appropriately. You know, people aren't over medicated, so you don't have that side effect of someone nodding out in group and things like that. So we're one of the only facilities on the East Coast that'll take an individual up on high doses of methadone. We'll take them up to 200 milligrams. Now, we will reduce them down to 120, and then we'll maintain them at 120.
So we're not detoxing them from 200 milligrams in the time period that they're here.
So we'll detox them to 120 and then stabilize them there. If they want to stabilize, if they want to detox all the way down, we can do that also.
In this short amount of time?
So we haven't had too much difficulty getting coverage approved for the length of their detox.
Okay. Let's talk about that a little bit, because that's a big point that we weren't at when we first opened.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, I started at the Lighthouse, and we started with very few contracts, and the contracts that we did have, we only got 7 days of treatment because we were new, and the insurance companies, I'm sure, wanted to see what we're going to do.
For sure.
Right? Now they know that we're a quality care place, you know, and now we're detoxing from high levels of methadone, and I've seen 45 days.
52 days.
So when I look at that, I'm saying, well, how did they do that? You know, because insurance companies want to pay for a step down.
For sure.
They want you to step down, but they also understand that the patient's still compromised.
And we show them, and it works.
Right.
So you can't argue data, right? You can't, I mean, people do anyway, right? People still infuse their opinion into, you know, factual information. But at the end of the day, you can't argue fact, you can't argue data. So if someone's here and they're doing well and they're showing up for groups and they're maintaining sobriety and they're showing signs of progression in a positive way, you can't argue fact, right? You can't argue clinical judgment with someone who's qualified and credentialed to do this every day.
I agree.
Of their life, right? So, you know, I'm by trade, right, licensed therapist. You know, and we have a mix of that on our team, right? We have people who are licensed therapists. We have people who are credentialed drug and alcohol counselors. You know, and we bring all that expertise to the table, and we say, what's the best route for this patient? Here's what we're going to fight for. Again, by any means necessary, right? We're going to fight and we're going to advocate to get the patient what they need, because a lot of times they don't have a voice. And oftentimes, you know, an individual on the other end of the phone that has never met this person, that is making a determination on what's the best next step for them, isn't going to be able to make it like we are. We get to know them while they're here. We know their story, their fears, their successes, what's going to make them well. And so they only have us to advocate. So our length of stay is beautiful, you know.
But it took a while to get to that. You know, and like you said, there's a person on the other end of the line that's not in front of that patient, has not worked with that patient. But I don't think that person is a bad person.
Absolutely not.
I think that they have a certain guideline.
For sure.
And I think that a lot of fraud in insurance has led us to this point, right?
So we're their representation.
Right. And I think that the data you're putting together is changing the game, right? Sure. And that's all we wanted to do when we first started, was show them what we can do, show them that we're committed, so we can change the game for the patient. Right?
It's also creating partnerships with the payers. Because, you know, for a long time, people in our field looked at the payers like the big bad payers.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we should be working in partnership. We have the same goal.
Absolutely.
Right. The goal is to get people well and to get them into long-term sustainable recovery, so that they're not cycling through. And then you have these raising healthcare costs, right? So everything we do is in partnership because we have the same goal. You know, the other thing that we're currently working on that we're tremendously excited about is we're going to put these peers in the hospital. We're going to put recovery-based peers, engagement specialists, in hospital systems, because I want to get them right from the gate. They walk in the door, they have, they're identified as someone who's in addiction. We don't even need to go much further than that. Are they medically stable? If they are, let's get them to us or to a provider that's appropriate.
Absolutely.
And let's get them treatment. Like, we don't need to wait 4 days, 5 days, 6 days.
I agree with that. I mean, people walk into hospitals and they're evaluated and then they're let go, right?
Yeah, like,
and it's because there's not enough resources for everybody.
It's a missed opportunity.
Yes, and then that person might go out and they might not make it to a facility.
And that's why it's a missed opportunity.
So for us to be able to be inside a hospital, and you know, we're just looking to help that person, you know, and now you have a case manager that's in the addiction field, knows.
Educating the staff.
Absolutely.
Get access to the individuals that are coming through the door, creating awareness. It's an undeniable.
It's a win-win for everybody, right?
It's a no-brainer.
So we're actually soldiers inside a hospital now. So you have people that are coming in begging for help.
And we're moving forward with that initiative in the next 3 weeks here at Bracebridge.
So is that initiative going to be in other hospitals? Because I understand Christiana is the next move for us, right?
So Christiana actually has a program called Project Engage, where they have peers. It was actually one of the first programs in the country. They won the presidential award in, I believe, so the program started in 2008. I believe they won the presidential award in 2012. And, you know, they have peer engagement specialists that work in the 2 larger hospital systems, so Newark and Wilmington. You know, that model has then, you know, grown to other hospital systems all over the country. And so, you know, we're looking to implement something very similar here with some of the hospital systems in Maryland. You know, we're looking to branch that out in partnership with some of our payers. And so we're excited about the possibility for that because, again, you are reducing healthcare costs. You are meeting someone where they are right at the jump. You don't have this 1 week wait for someone to get into care. You can actually get them into care. And, you know, for us, that's 2 hours. Right. It's whatever the drive time is, right? Absolutely. That's what it is for us. You want to come into treatment? It's going to take us as long as it takes us to get to you and then get you back here. That's how long it's going to take us to get you into treatment, right? So, and that's huge because you have this small window, and if you miss it, who knows what happens, right? And we don't even want to think about that. We just want to get people into care.
I agree, and I really appreciate all these things. You know, I'm just happy I get a chance to sit with you.
For sure.
Because this is where I kind of started, was with you, you know. And
we're doing great things.
The amount of help that we've given so many people,
unbelievable.
You know, I appreciate it, you know, and, you know, I appreciate Brian that he gave me an opportunity to get out there and just see what I can do to help others.
Yeah, he's brilliant, and you know, and his heart is in the right place at all times. And that's how, you know, when I first got here, one of the best lessons I learned from him was that there is a time to be silent and quiet and learn and be reflective. And there's a time to put all diplomacy to the side to save lives. Because while we're being diplomatic, people are dying, right? And so, you know, when you say things like, you people never know what I'm going to say. I work really hard on my diplomacy, but I'm never going to miss an opportunity to advocate to save a life, no matter what that looks like. And so there's times where I say things and you know, it's not always viewed as positive. This disease is trying to kill us all. It is ravaging our communities. I'm not going to always be positive about it, right? Because we have to attack it with every tool that we have in our toolbox. And we cannot sit back and be polite about it, right? Like, we have to attack it.
I agree.
All hands on deck. And so there's not always diplomacy in that, right? It's not always going to be warm and fuzzy.
I agree.
That's just not real life.
And I appreciate it. Because you have to get in it, right?
For sure.
So we have to realize that we're supporting people who can't support themselves, who don't know what their next move is, right? So it's up to us to step forward to make it happen.
Be the voice.
You know, and like I said, I'm really happy to be here because
I'm glad you're here.
This is where I kind of started with you. And, you know, I want everybody to know that us as a company, you may see us everywhere on billboards and we're on a lot of commercials, but the company is us. Like, the people who work for RCA is who
what
RCA,
you see is what you get.
This is who we are. You know, we were all interviewed in a way where, what are you going to do to help someone else?
Right.
You know, I understand you have all this experience and you can do this and you can do that, but who are you? You know, because I remember interviewing with Brian and he asked me at least 3 times, who are you? You know, and I kept talking about the bagel stores I was involved in and the food stuff. And he says, no.
Who are you at your core?
You know, and I said,
what are you going to bring to the patient?
I'm the guy who goes broke helping the homeless. He says, you're a patient advocate. And I said, I don't even know what that is, but okay.
Okay, I'll take it.
You know, and I asked him, I said, so am I going to be hired? He says, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he just went like this. And I didn't get it at first until I got to the company.
For sure.
And then I realized that everybody was just looking to help.
Absolutely.
You know, and there's a lot of things that go into the help, right? You have to say the right thing. You got to be in the right places. You can't fund certain things because it'll look a certain way. You have to always let everybody know, and I will keep saying it, we are an in-network provider.
We have to be available.
We are available 24/7, right?
24/7, and people are always like, wow, yeah, because if you don't answer your phone at 6:01 when someone needs help, you are not open to serve.
That's right.
We are open to serve 24/7, 365, and they'll answer on the second ring or less.
And people, especially my family, they think I'm a little nuts because I will answer the phone in the middle of the night.
That's right.
Phone rings, I get up, I answer the phone, and I say, well, can't someone else get it? I'm like, somebody might miss that opportunity and somebody might die. What if that person only feels comfortable with me? And I always answer, and you know what? I'm happy to answer. Like, I feel like this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I think meeting you is definitely what was supposed to happen.
For sure, absolutely. And it's all meaningful, right? It's all exactly how it's supposed to happen.
I think everything happens for a reason, and I think that, we've done some really cool things,
I agree.
And
I'm grateful.
I'm grateful too, and someone asked me, could you do anything else right now? Do you want to go open up a store? And I'm, no, because I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm getting all this other opportunity, to get the word out.
For sure.
And let people know how much we care, because we want everybody to have all the resources available that they can get. I mean, this is a life or death type of thing.
Absolutely.
And we all know it. We take this seriously. And the people that work here, most fantastic people you'll ever meet, you included. I appreciate it.
You as well.
So we're here at Bracebridge Hall. We're talking to Domenica Personti. She's our CEO. She's not like any other CEO, but she is our CEO. We're happy to have her. And, I'm looking forward to coming back again to seeing where it ended up, because I know you're still building things. We're talking about other things in, other areas of the business that are going to support people in their aftercares. And I'm looking forward to see what that turns out to be. Our mission in this company is to follow people through their recovery. We want to know how you're doing. We make calls after you leave. And you might get a phone call from someone that you never even heard of, but they work with us and they're looking at your progress and they want to know how you're doing. So if someone does call you, it's just out of care and concern. So we're going to come back with Aquila, and she runs our kitchen, and she's going to allow me to cook a meal with her. So this should be quite a scene. And Domenica, you're not going to come in and make fun of me. So,
definitely not.
when I asked her about it, she was so happy. And Aquila is one of the most dynamic kitchen people we have company-wide.
Absolutely.
So when I got a chance to ask Eric if he'll come here, so I got a double. I got to be with you, and I got to be with Aquila. So we're going to come back, and I'm going to cook a meal with Aquila, and I'm going to do the best that I can. And Domenica, thank you so much for
Absolutely.
your time. I really appreciate it.
I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
And I can't wait to see all the other things that you're going to get done.
Good stuff coming.
We'll be right back with Eye of the Storm.